It's the morning after the budget and we are taking you through all the highlights that you just might have missed. Talking about key takeaways there, a push for infrastructure and a 30% tax on transfer or sale of digital assets were the key highlights of Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman's budget in 2022. Income tax rates have been kept unchanged. And the big takeaways talk about no change to income tax slabs. Taxpayers can file updated income tax returns within 2 years in a one-time window as well. There is a 35% jump in the outlay for capital expenditure, so a hike in government spending on new projects. And government has also promised more jobs, saying production-linked incentive scheme of the centre has the potential to create 60 lakh new jobs during the next 5 years. A 30% tax will apply on income from sale or even acquisition of virtual and digital assets such as cryptocurrency. That's been a key takeaway. A digital currency will also be introduced by the RBI, India's own digital currency to be introduced by the RBI this year itself. Apart from that, 1 lakh crore allocation for government housing and water schemes. Meanwhile, Prime Minister called the budget people-friendly and progressive, also saying that the Finance Minister coming out to say that the message she got from the Prime Minister was very clear: no additional taxes.
Just before the high-stakes assembly elections in 5 states, the BJP government has presented the national budget, calling it the People's Welfare Budget.
I present the budget for the year 2022-23.
While presenting her 4th budget, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said,
"This budget seeks to lay the foundation and give a blueprint to steer the economy over Amritkal of the next 25 years, from India at 75 to India at 100. It continues to build on the vision drawn in the budget of 21-22. Its fundamental tenets, which included transparency of financial statement and fiscal position, reflect the government's intent, strengths and challenges. This continues to guide us."
Prime Minister Modi congratulated his colleague Nirmala Sitharaman and her team for presenting a progressive and people-friendly budget.
ये बजट अर्थव्यवस्था को मजबूती देने के साथ ही सामान्य मानवी के लिए अनेक नए अवसर बनाएगा। इस बजट का एक महत्वपूर्ण पहलू है गरीब का कल्याण। हर गरीब के पास पक्का घर हो, नल से जल आता हो, उसके पास शौचालय हो, गैस की सुविधा हो, इन सभी पर विशेष ध्यान दिया गया है।
Opposition parties have criticized the budget as being pro-capitalist and anti-poor.
By any standard, today's budget speech was the most capitalist speech ever read by a finance minister. The FM has mastered the jargon of capitalist economics. The total subsidy bill has been cut by a humongous 27%. This is the most unkindest cut in this budget. The finance minister may have forgotten the poor, but the poor have long memories.
The West Bengal Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee termed the budget as a Pegasus spin budget and stated that the budget has zero for the common man. Delhi Chief Minister Arvind Kejriwal described the budget as disappointing. Even BJP ally in Bihar, JDU leader Upendra Kushwaha called it disappointing. The TRS President and Telangana Chief Minister K. Chandrasekhar Rao described it as meaningless. Bureau Report, NDTV.
So that was the overall picture and how the opposition responded as well. But here's a report decoding sector-wise breakup of the budget.
Benefited by.
The finance minister, while presenting the budget, spoke of how the government would be spending much more the next fiscal year. But despite this promise of increased spending on the one hand, on the other, the government has slashed the budget for Manrega by 25%. In 2021-22, the revised estimates show that the budget allocated for the scheme was about 98,000 crore. In 22-23, the budget estimates is 25% down to 73,000 crore. It's not just rural employment. Even rural development has seen a cut in budgets. from 2.07 lakh crore in 21-22 to 2.06 lakh crore in 22-23. The rural employment scheme Manrega had been a lifeline for many during the pandemic, as is seen by the work demand numbers. In December 2019, 1.7 crore households had demanded for work. This is before the pandemic. After the pandemic struck in December 2020, the demand rose to 2.7 crore households. In December 2021, the demand remained still higher than the pre-pandemic levels at 2.4 crore households demanding for work.
Hard to really pass comment on the individual numbers, but on the face of it, yes, for a very highly successful scheme like NREGA to see a reduction is a little puzzling at this stage, given that we still have so much stress in the system.
Yeah, one thing we could have asked for is, could you have more direct transfer of money to the consumers? And that could be done by increasing the outlay on Manrega or by bringing in an urban equivalent of Manrega.
The government has, however, defended the cut.
I'm afraid you're reading the wrong numbers. And this is a basic premise of budget analysis, which is that you always compare budget estimates to budget estimates. On Narega, it's 78,000 is what was there in the original 2021 budget.
Okay.
2021-22 came up because of pandemic. The increasing allocation to Manrega is a sign of poor economic health, because Manrega is a demand-driven scheme.
In some other key sectors as well, the budget has not increased substantially. The health budget is up by less than 1%. Education is one sector where we see some hope, where the budget has increased by 18%. However, defense again is up by only 5%. This is Mariam Alavi for NDTV.
And Nirmala Sitharaman's budget has drawn mixed reactions from the industry as well. In Mumbai, the financial capital, there were a few issues that stood out for those watching out for the details.
Directionally, it is very correct. And like swapping batteries, which is more relevant for two-wheelers and three-wheelers. And also the PLI scheme for the batteries and the other e-mobility technology things. I think the government is moving in the right direction to encourage the e-mobility space.
I think the main announcements today in the budget were more to do with infrastructure. And anytime any investment goes into infrastructure, that overall helps the real estate sector. So the Gati Shakti master plan for expressways, that's definitely going to give a boost for the infrastructure sector. The 100 new cargo terminals, that's again going to help the sector. There was talk about connecting urban transport to railways.
On the data centers, there has been a huge amount of impetus given by the Honorable Finance Minister. Data centers is now being given an industry status. And why Mumbai and Chennai benefit is because the undersea cable comes into these two cities. And these are the two preferred locations for data centers. And we're seeing a ton of money. I mean, billions of dollars coming in to set up data centers in the last 18 to 24 months.
I don't think our industry has got any relief except for the one announcement on the ECGLS scheme where additional 50,000 will be disbursed to those who are eligible. The challenge is actually that our industry does not need more loans. What it needs is basically restructuring. And unfortunately, in this third wave, especially both leisure and city markets have suffered, and even F&B as a whole has suffered.
Meanwhile, the centre will promote Kisan drones, chemical-free, natural farming, public-private partnership for delivery of digital and high-tech services to farmers across the country during the financial year 22-23. But what do farm leaders actually think about the budget? Sukirti Trivedi reports.
The procurement of wheat in Rabi 21-22 and the estimated procurement of paddy in Kharif 21-22 will cover 1,208 lakh metric tons of wheat and paddy from 163 lakh farmers, and 2.37 lakh crores will be the direct payment of MSP value to their accounts.
At first glance, it would seem grand figures from the government at a time when withdrawal of the 3 farm laws after the year-long farmers' protests is still fresh in public memory, and key agricultural states like UP and Punjab are going to polls next month. But a little hindsight and the picture becomes clear. The overall budget of agriculture and allied activities has dropped from 4.26% in the previous year to 3.84%. Paddy and wheat procurement is down to 1,208 from 1,286 lakh metric tons. The budget has decreased to 2.37 lakh crore rupees from 2.48 lakh crore rupees. The amount farmers benefit is down to 1.63 crore rupees from 1.97 crore rupees, and subsidies on fertilizers in lakh crore rupees is down to 1.05 from 1.40.
The government, humiliated by the farmers' movement and the defeat, is out to take revenge on the farmers. The budget was characterized by silence. This was the 6th year of doubling of farmers' income in 6 years. The previous 5 budgets had long poems about doubling of farmers' income, and this year, when it was about accounting those 6 years, complete silence.
Other farmer leaders say that the minimum support price or MSP, which was a key issue of the farmers' protest, still remains unresolved.
आपका नॉर्म्स है, जो रूल्स हैं, वो कहते हैं कि 15 दिन के बाद ब्याज उसको मिलना चाहिए. कोई ब्याज दिया नहीं गया, उसको कोई ज़्यादा पैसा तो दिया नहीं, जितना उसका ड्यू था, और जो साल भर पहले उसको मिल जाना चाहिए था, आपने 1 साल डिले करके दिया. उसको भी ये बड़ा बढ़ा चढ़ा के उत्तर प्रदेश के चुनाव में बता रहे हैं.
In Punjab, which has seen 15,000 farmer suicides in the last 10 years, 35-year-old Veerpal Kaur says that budgets come and go, but nothing is done on loan waivers and the women farmers who are left behind. She lost her husband to suicide in 2015 and her father-in-law to it in 2000. She has a daughter who is handicapped and a son.
ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਸਹੂਲਤ ਦਿੰਦੀ ਵੀ ਹੈ ਕਿਸਾਨੀ ਬਜਟ ਤੇ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਜਦੋਂ ਕੋਈ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਮਿਲ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਿਹਾ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਉਹਦਾ ਕੀ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਜੀ, ਜਦੋਂ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੁਝ ਮਿਲ ਹੀ ਨਹੀਂ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਵੱਲੋਂ. ਨਾ ਹੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਆ ਕੇ ਦੱਸ ਰਿਹਾ, ਨਾ ਹੀ ਸਾਨੂੰ ਕੋਈ ਪੁੱਛ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਵੀ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਖੇਤੀ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਜਾਂ ਕਿਵੇਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਗੁਜ਼ਾਰਾ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ ਆਪਣਾ. ਅਸੀਂ ਜੀ ਬਹੁਤ ਮੁਸ਼ਕਲ ਨਾਲ ਗੁਜ਼ਾਰਾ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਬਸ ਜਿੰਨਾ ਕੁ ਸਾਥੋਂ ਹੁੰਦਾ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਕੁ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂਗੇ ਬਸ.
The centre's moves on agricultural sector in the budget were being watched with a lot of interest, as the government was expected to pacify those sections at a time when they are being wooed by rival political parties. But many of those hopes have now been shattered. With Mohammad Ghazali in Punjab and camera person Pooja Arya, this is Sukirti Dwivedi for NDTV.
Moving on to jobs, what did the budget have for that? Well, Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, during the presentation of the Union Budget, informed the Parliament that the production-linked incentive scheme of the centre had the potential to create 60 lakh new jobs during the next 5 years. How have jobs actually featured overall in the budget? Here's a wrap.
The productivity-linked incentive has the potential to create 60 lakh new jobs in the next 5 years, or about 12 lakh new jobs a year. That was one of the big announcements made by the Finance Minister today. Jobs have always featured heavily in most budgets in the recent years. For example, if we look at the earlier budgets, in 2018, they said 70 lakh formal jobs will be created this year as per an independent study. In 2019, they said we need to invest heavily in job creation in small and medium firms. In 2020, Aspirational India was the theme in which all sections see better standards of living with better jobs. In 2021, again they said 1.5 lakh additional jobs could be generated through chip recycling. But the latest announcement seems to be one of the biggest of its kind, with a possible eye on the upcoming assembly elections and the growing unrest over unemployment. Data from CMIE shows how salary jobs have been sliding since the pandemic. Now let's look at those numbers. In December 2019, before the pandemic hit, we had 80.9 million salaried employees in India. In December 2021, well into the pandemic, that has reduced to 77.1 million salaried employees. That's a reduction of about 3.8 million less salaried jobs in India. However, it's ironic that while the government has promised big when it comes to jobs, on the other hand, they've also slashed the budget by 25% for the rural employment scheme. that was a lifeline during the pandemic. In a job-stressed world, Manrega had been the social security net that people turned to.
All right, and the other big headline that came out of the budget is on crypto and digital currency. Crypto just became legal in India with a 30% tax on income from sale. Let's take you through the highlights over there. Tax is on income, meaning once you buy or sell, you pay about 30% on that amount. In addition, you pay 1% TDS to the exchanges as well. Some reports suggest that this is something that will be credited back, but we still need to get more details on that front. Another key point here is any loss you incur on sale of your digital assets cannot be set off against any gain. So you pay taxes regardless of profits or losses in your crypto exchanges. The next thing to note is on gifting. In case you receive digital assets as gift, the recipient of the asset will pay tax, and no regulations yet overall on digital currency or overall on assets as well. But the highest level of tax coming in on crypto is a message from the government.
A currency is a currency only when it is issued by the central bank, even if it's a crypto. There will be a transaction, TDS imposed on every transaction in the crypto world, any transaction that is happening outside. So the distinctions are very clear. Currency is only with the Reserve Bank. That will get issued sometime this year. The transaction happening in the crypto world are of different kinds of assets, and for that, every transaction gets taxed.
The tech startup community in Chennai is quite upbeat about the push for technology in the union budget, which they say could open plenty of opportunities for them, despite some disappointments, however, in the budget. Sam Daniel has this report.
In Chennai, look at the union budget. I come to you from Macap Studio, a $5 million bootstrapped startup. With me, George, the co-founder, and Chandru, the business head. Chandru, if I can begin with you. Disappointments first?
The main disappointment would be like there is no personal tax reduction. It was same actually. There is no change for any salaried employees, and the exemption also remains the change. It was very disappointing from a salaried employee's perspective actually.
Definitely there are certain benefits and facilities that they have provided for startups. For example, the credit availability guarantee scheme which they have provided, they have increased by 50,000 crores to a total of 5 lakh crores and have extended it to a period of March 2023, which is a good thing. Another aspect is that eligible startups can basically avail income tax holiday till March 2023. That is also a very, very welcome move.
There's also a new push towards animation, also on drone technology and United Healthcare.
Yes, there are so many technology aspects that is specifically given in the budget. For example, Sam, they basically are introducing a digital rupee, a blockchain-based digital rupee from the year 2023, which will basically become the crypto or digital currency for all transactions in the future, which is a very, very welcome move, because not only in terms of introducing a blockchain-based cryptocurrency, they also have created a platform for many other startups and ecosystems to come and create applications on top of the digital rupee. So that will create a big ecosystem on its own.
Personally, this kind of a push on technology, what would this mean to opportunities for startups like yours?
Huge ones, Sam. For example, if you take the case of UPI, nobody other than the government could have created that backbone. Similarly, for UHID, for the open platform for healthcare, nobody else other than the government would be able to create that kind of a backbone. Now that the backbone structure is created, numerous startups and numerous companies can come and create multi-billion companies on top of the base framework. So that will basically become an accelerator. So the technologies which we spoke about, the drone technology, the digital rupee, the ABGC task force, and the open platform for healthcare, these are going to become catalyst for huge development platforms in the future, which I am sure we are going to see in the next 2 to 3 years.
Thank you so much for your time, both of you. And Macap Studio, a startup in Chennai, speaking out in terms of both disappointments and many positive aspects of this union budget, in which they see a huge opportunity for themselves and for many like others. In Chennai with Suresh, Sam Daniel, Find the TV.
Welcome back. Let's talk about COVID now. The Maharashtra government has eased out several curbs and called off the 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. night curfew in view of declining cases of COVID-19. That also means that restaurants, theatres, swimming pools and water parks can now remain open with 50% capacity. Beaches, gardens and parks will go back to opening as per normal timings before the pandemic started. Fresh cases in Mumbai have seen a nearly 96% fall since the peak of this wave. Meanwhile, in Kerala, what are the numbers looking like? 51,887 new cases reported and the tests also over 121,000 over there. Positivity rate, interestingly, dipped from 50% to 42.86% over there, and deaths reported 132. Added deaths, as per the new guideline of the central government, have been taken into account, and over 1,000 over there. New hospital admissions remain to be over 1,300, which is a reason to worry, and around 3.2% of the active patients required hospital admission as well. This, remember, is a minor dip from 3.6 to now 3.2%.
The rate of increase of cases in the state is decreasing. So in the first week of January, it was 48% increase. Then it was for 148%, then to 15% in the next week, and then it got reduced to 71%, and the last week it's 16%, 16%, the rate of increase. So it's a very good sign. And though the number of cases, number of tests, we have increased in tests, the number of cases is almost remaining the same.
All right, let's talk about elections now, starting with UP, where BJP has announced tickets for all of the 9 Lucknow seats. Remember, the capital of the state. BJP gave tickets to former ED officer Rajeshwar Singh from Sarojini Nagar. Minister Brijesh Pathak got a ticket from Lucknow Cant. But interestingly, BJP did not give a ticket to Rita Bahuguna Joshi's son, Mayank Joshi, who was looking for one. And also the latest Yadav to join the BJP also did not end up getting a ticket as well, which is quite an interesting bit over there. Saurabh Shukla joins us for the very latest. Good morning, Saurabh. It's been a cold UP and Lucknow morning, I'm told, but the political heat just catching up in the capital there.
Absolutely, Sonal. This fight of UP is getting interesting with every day. In fact, till yesterday, everybody was waiting that BJP will announce who will get ticket, who will not get ticket. Lucknow Cant, a hot seat. In fact, Rita Bahuguna Joshi was asking ticket for his son Mayank Joshi. Brijesh Pathak also wanted to contest from that seat. Finally, Brijesh won. Aparna Yadav, who contested from that seat in 2017, she was also one of the contender. But I've been told that Aparna was convinced she'll be given MLC and she'll be campaigning in the state, and she's been told that you'll be given respect, but not Mayank Joshi. And interestingly, the seat of Sarojini Nagar, which was also in a lot of talks, sitting MLA and Minister Swati Singh was asking ticket. So her husband, Daya Shankar Singh, who is Vice President of UP BJP, very close to Yogi Adityanath and Amit Shah, he was also seeking ticket, but they both did not get. Ex-ED officer Rajeshwar Singh will contest from that seat. Now there are 2 names, Sonal, which are going to be, we are looking towards them. In fact, we'll be following them today. Swati Singh, who is apparently very angry. In fact, she spoke to a few of the colleagues. She was saying that she will decide something by afternoon and she'll announce it in the evening. And Mayank Joshi as well. Rita Bahuguna Joshi very categorically said that she is playing the last innings of her political career. She wants Mayank Joshi to take her political career ahead, but it did not happen. So Rita Bahuguna Joshi, interestingly, what she is going to do, what Mayank Joshi is going to do, that will be very interesting. Apart from that, Samajwadi Party also announced 8 candidates of 9 seats of Lucknow, but Samajwadi Party did not announce candidate on Sarojini Nagar seat. So who will be the candidate of Samajwadi Party against Rajeshwar Singh from the seat of Sarojini Nagar, which is going to be decided today? We may see somebody revolting against BJP and joining Samajwadi Party, but this fight is getting interested. In fact, yesterday Samajwadi Party did not give ticket to Abhishek Mishra from Lucknow North. He was very close to Akhilesh Yadav. He was protocol minister in Akhilesh Yadav's government. He did not get the ticket. He was denied ticket, and instead ticket was given to a 25-year-old student leader, Pooja Shukla, who was jailed for showing black flags to Yogi Adityanath in 2017, and she went to jail in 2020 for protesting against CA and NRC. So this fight of Lucknow is getting very interested, and today there are two names which are going to be very important. One, Mayank Joshi, and second, name of Swati Singh. Sonal.
What exactly will they do in urban centres? In Lucknow, generally it is seen to be a BJP stronghold place, but this time with the names really fielded out, it is really anybody's game, and we wait to see what really is going to happen there. Thanks so much, Saurabh, for joining us this morning. Talking about those interesting seats, let's talk about few in Punjab, where Nawanshahr Assembly is bracing for an interesting electoral contest as well, of what many are calling a rebel versus a turncoat in the upcoming Assembly elections. Ghazali has more for you.
Of the 3 assembly seats in Shahid Bhagat Singh Nagar in Punjab, the contest just got very interesting in the Nawanshahr seat. This seat has remained with a single family for 60 years, the family of sitting Congress MLA Angad Singh Saini. But this time the party has dropped him, and the reason is believed to be his wife, an MLA from Raebareli, who has switched over to the BJP.
I was told to do something which was against my conscience, and I did not compromise on it. So I think that is probably the price that I'm paying. In any case, I filed as an independent, and it wasn't my choice.
The Congress has replaced the sitting MLA Angad Singh Saini with Satveer Singh Palli Jhiki, also from Nawanshahr, who has been waiting for a ticket for 15 years.
मेरे फादर, मेरे पेरेंट्स जो है पुराने, हम कांग्रेसी परिवार हैं. कैप्टन अमरिंदर सिंह जी जो है ना, कांग्रेस पार्टी को बड़ी लंबा टाइम उन्होंने हेड किया है. उन्होंने अब मेरे कंसेंट के बगैर उन्होंने मुझे डिस्ट्रिक्ट प्रधान अनाउंस किया था. जो नाराज हैं उनको बनाने की कोशिश करें.
A semi-urban constituency, the seat for 8 terms has remained in the family of Angad Singh Saini, the incumbent MLA from the Congress. The Saini community has a sizable presence here. Congress has represented the seat since 2012. Illegal mining in Rahon area, drugs, unemployment and sewer problems are the key issues. The Aam Aadmi Party has fielded sitting councillor and former Nawanshahr Municipal Council President Lalit Mohan Pathak, who is credited with Nawanshahr performing well in the Swachh Bharat Sarvekshan.
जो इन्हां ने दोनों पार्टियां ने लोगों ਨੂੰ ਬੇਵਕੂਫ ਬਣਾਇਆ ਆ, ਲੋਕ ਸਮਝ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਆ. ਹੁਣ ਇਸ ਵਾਰ ਪੂਰੀ ਵੇਵ ਆਮ ਆਦਮੀ ਪਾਰਟੀ ਦੀ ਆ.
Like most seats in Punjab, even this semi-urban seat of Nawanshahr has issues of drugs and unemployment. But will voters go for a change or trust the traditional parties? With Sharad Sharma and Mohammad Ghazali, Bureau Report, NDTV.
Switching over to some news coming in from Maharashtra this morning, in Thane area, where a vehicle has been intercepted carrying 1,000 gelatin sticks and the same number of detonators as well. Last evening, 3 people have been taken into custody, and according to police, a car was intercepted in the area in Nizampur police station in Bigpadi. And the police said that they're investigating where the explosives and detonator was being taken as well. And 3 people, Alpesh Patel, Pankaj Chavan and Sameer Ga, have been detained by the police. Sunil Singh, join us for the very latest on this story. Sunil, what exactly are the details here? हमें आप क्या बता सकते हैं पूरी इन्वेस्टिगेशन के बारे में? पुलिस को क्या पता चला है अभी?
देखिए सोनल, अभी पुलिस इस पे बहुत ज्यादा कुछ बता नहीं रही है. सिर्फ इतनी जानकारी मिली कि ठाणे जो क्राइम ब्रांच है उन्हें सूचना मिली थी कि कुछ लोग विस्फोटक के साथ आने वाले हैं. उसी हिसाब से इन्हें शक के आधार पर जो इको गाड़ी है उसको रोका गया था, और जब उसकी तलाशी ली गई तो उसमें जिलेटिन मिली 100 छड़े और साथ में डेटोनेटर भी मिला, जो कि बहुत ही गंभीर बात है, चिंताजनक बात है. कितने बड़े पैमाने पर विस्फोटक ये कहां से ला रहे थे और कहां ले जा रहे थे, इसकी अभी जांच की जा रही है. अमूमन जो ये ठाणे का इलाका है मुंबई से सटा हुआ, यहाँ पर पहाड़ियाँ बहुत है। यहाँ अवैध तरीके से भी पहाड़ों की खुदाई होती है, जिसमें कि जिलेटिन का इस्तेमाल किया जाता है, और कई समय और कुछ जगहों पर जहाँ अवैध तरीके से भी होती है। तो अमूमन इस तरह के जिलेटिन यहाँ मिलते हैं, लेकिन अभी तक जो जानकारी मिली है, जो तीनों आरोपी हैं वो भी पालघर जिले के ही हैं, ठाणे जिले से लगा हुआ है, और वहाँ पर इस तरह की क्वेरीज बहुत हैं, लेकिन कोई डॉक्यूमेंट दस्तावेज नहीं होने की वजह से इनसे पकड़ा गया है, इनसे पूछताछ की जा रही है, और ये जानने की कोशिश की जा रही है कि सिर्फ और सिर्फ ये कहीं खुदाई के लिए ही आया था या फिर कहीं इस मंशा जो है इनकी कोई कुछ और तो नहीं थी।
जी सुनील जी, हमें सारी जानकारी देने के लिए बहुत बहुत शुक्रिया। More news coming in from Dhanbad this morning, where in a tragic incident, 5 coal pickers, including 4 women, died on Tuesday after a portion of the Eastern Coalfield Limited, that's the ECL coal mine, collapsed in Dhanbad, Jharkhand. The area falls under the Nirsa police station, and according to several reports, a special investigation team is headed by the SP of the rural area is now further probing on what exactly happened. 5 coal pickers there, including 4 women, died on Tuesday. Welcome back. Let's take you through the COVID figures that have come in for the past 24 hours. 1,61,386 new cases have been reported in the past one day. The daily positivity rate now at 9.26% in single digits now, and the overall numbers also below 2 lakh. Now, over 17,42,000 tests were conducted in the past 24 hours as well. The deaths have gone up. Over 1,700, up by 541 over there, but that's significantly because of a lot of backlog deaths being added to these figures as well. Meanwhile, over 200 members across gyms in Delhi protested at the Delhi CM's residence, demanding that gyms be reopened, an industry that has been severely impacted due to the strict COVID curbs. But even as last week Delhi eased curbs, gyms continue to face losses. In addition to this, over 1,600 parents have been campaigning online, demanding the government to reopen schools at a time when there is a dip in COVID cases.
If Uganda can, why can't Delhi? States like Karnataka, Maharashtra reopening schools, experts and doctors now seem to suggest that it is time that kids return to schools, return to school learning, classroom learning. But concerned parents across the national capital, over 1,600 of them have written a petition, have been spearheading a campaign. They met the Deputy Chief Minister, the Education Minister, Mr. Manish Sisodia, demanding and proposing that schools be reopened in Delhi now with a dip in COVID cases. How have these curfews and school closure impacted you as a parent?
Well, initially I understand it was to keep a precautionary check on the child's health, but now after 650 days it's just a frustrating kind of imposition on us.
The worst part of this has been seeing kids trying to cope up with this. I think it's tough to see them kind of deal with an online education model.
What is your name and what do you miss the most about school?
My name is Kaina Gilani and I miss most about school, sitting with my friends, eating together, chatting.
It's actually impacted the kids a lot because schools are not just about reading and writing, there's so much more that the kids learn when they go to school. Right. Peer-to-peer interaction, everything else, all the other activities, everything has stopped for them.
The question now is the politics of this pandemic really now crippling down to these innocent children who are losing out on their childhood at a time when COVID cases have dipped and at a time when every other activity has been reopened in the country. In Delhi with Sushil Rathi, Shunakshi Chakravarti for NDTV. With a dip in COVID cases as Delhi relaxes its curfews and curbs with restaurants and bars opening and other activities in markets and shops opening up, still schools and gyms remain shut. We're trying to get a perspective from the Delhi Gym Association here. I'm joined by Mr. Chirag Sethi, the Vice President, who will tell us, in fact, what are the kind of losses they've had to suffer because of constant curfews and curbs in place. Thank you for speaking to us. You all protested across Delhi. You all went to the Chief Minister's house. Why is this protest so important for you?
See, in the last 20 months, 10 months the gyms were closed. Okay, this is the longest for any industry that has happened. So there are about 1 lakh people who are associated with the gyms today. They're directly employed, but there are also indirect employment, the equipment guys, basically the supplement companies, the fit food companies. So there are about 5 lakh families who are dependent on the gyms.
Have you heard from the LG's office or the Delhi government as to why the gyms continue to remain shut? Have you heard anything?
So we have given our memorandum after the protest also, and I have also written numerous letters to the LG as well as the CM, but we have not got any response.
If the Delhi government, if the DDMA feel that gyms do not have to be open at the moment because there could be questions in terms of safety and hygiene, keeping in mind COVID-19 protocols, then what is the question is, what is the backup? How are they planning to help and provide relief to this industry? It is a huge industry. Remember, in Delhi alone, over 1 lakh people are associated across 5,000 gyms, and indirect employment is at least over 5 lakh families. The question they are asking is, if every other activity can be reopened, can continue in the capital with a dip in COVID cases, why not the gyms be open? In Delhi with Sushil Rathi, Shanakshi Chakravarti for NDTV.
All right, let's bring you more news related to COVID now, and this is about a fast-spreading, highly mutant sub-variant that has been detected. Now, a sub-variant of the highly contagious Omicron coronavirus strain, which some studies indicate could be even more infectious than the original version, has been detected now in 57 countries, according to the WHO. Now, this fast-spreading and heavily mutated Omicron variant has rapidly become the dominant variant worldwide since it was first detected in southern African countries 10 weeks ago. In its weekly epidemiological update, the World Health Organization said that the variant, which accounts for over 93% of all coronavirus specimens that they're collecting in the past 1 month, counts several sub-lineages as well. It's BA.1, BA.11, but specifically BA.2 is the one that is now, according to the WHO, a fairly serious cause of concern. What exactly do we know about this, and what's really should be our outlook towards this new subvariant? To talk about that, we've got our doctors with us this morning. Joining us is Dr. Ravi Kohli. He's a senior psychiatrist as well. Thank you so much for your time, Doc. And also with us is Dr. Lokesh Dara, senior physician, joining us from the United States. Dr. Lokesh, if I can begin with you, what exactly do we know about this variant so far?
Actually, this is new variant, so in the real world data we don't have exactly. But when you follow the South African model, they take the isolation off from the asymptomatic patients, and all the cases are coming down across the most of the countries, such as UK, taken off it. So we have to watch next couple of weeks, see what's whether any increase in the mortality or anything. For currently, it may be spreading like other one, but most of the countries we're seeing the downfall of the numbers.
All right, downfall of the numbers, but in terms of transmissibility, in terms of seriousness, we are basically trying to understand, will this take more lives? And the second question, in fact, on that is, will it escape immunity? Dr. Ravi, if you could give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, good morning, Sonali. Thanks for having us. Like you said, the variant is more infectious and more people are getting infected. About in USA, 500,000 new infections every day and 2,000 people are dying every day. So even though the severity of the illness is milder, because it's affecting more people, some of them are going to die. So it cannot be taken lightly, and it still has to be taken very seriously and have to be very cautiously approached by vaccination and all the precautionary measures we are all supposed to take. So it's not time to lighten up, even though we might be tired of COVID. COVID is not tired of us. It's still wreaking its havoc on us, our lives.
Right. Dr. Lokesh, then, when the year 2022 kicked in, there were lots of reports and very senior people, even at the WHO, saying that this just might be the beginning. This year just might be the beginning of the end of the pandemic as we know it. It might turn into an endemic later, especially with the way Omicron had behaved. Does this new variant sort of is in line with what they had thought, or do you think this could derail plans and understanding of the virus so far?
I think it's too early to say it derails the plan, because Omicron itself, even if I get infection before, even if I am vaccinated 3 or 4 times, I still be getting, whole world will get the Omicron. So this way, so we are going to get, when you look at the Spanish flu, 1918, 1920, there are 3 years it spread. So most of the pandemic, the scientists think we have started in 2020, 21, 22 will go in the next 6 months. So, and we're a herd immunity because we're getting everybody. 7 billion people will get it. So most of the time we're seeing lesser severity, except elderly and immunocompromised. So we have to wait for next 3-4 weeks, this the B2 variant, what it behaves. But I have not seen the real reports of really seriousness, but the infection is mixing together. That's my, at least my data analysis.
I see. Dr. Ravi, then the fact that this is emerging out of Africa, one could argue at a very basic level that it is because of vaccine inequality as well, that in that part of the world we actually see new variants coming in. How concerned are you about that? Something, again, the WHO has been raising time and again?
Yeah, even though it might have been first detected in Africa, doesn't mean that it has only started there. It's likely that the mutation has been taking place everywhere. Wherever people are unvaccinated, most likely they harbor the virus, and they're probably more likely to have a mutant happening in their system. So we cannot just pinpoint any one place or geography to attribute this spread. For example, most of the infections that are happening in the United States are now Omicron variety. So regardless where it started, it's now everywhere, and there's no escape from that. So the fact is that people who are vaccinated have a lesser risk of hospitalization and death is the key point everybody has to remember. We all need to be updated with our vaccination schedule, and not to kind of ignore the vaccination as the key to our kind of exit strategy from this status of pandemic.
The fact that we're at least talking about an exit strategy is comforting at some levels. But Dr. Lokesh, let me come to you. Could you sort of break it down for us? If it's a sub-variant of Omicron itself, it cannot be technically more dangerous than Omicron, can it?
Well, it is, because the more data we don't know exactly the information, how the news is coming more forward than the research publications. So it is, since we started alpha, now it is Omicron. This is almost like 15 variations. Only 3 cases came through. One is where we have less vaccinated, and Delta started in India, and the Omicron started in South Africa, mostly in HIV patient immunocompromised, where they are less vaccinated. So the original virus is alpha. All the other variants did not went through. So I think I'm going to wait for my judgment next. What happens? They look at the real numbers, then only I can respond. So far, things are much liberal than what BA2, but I have to wait for 2-3 weeks to look at more detail. And they may want to be variant, or they may name a new one if it is so much of concern.
I see. Dr. Ravi, your thoughts on just understanding the extent to which a subvariant can go in its basic character different from from Omicron?
Yeah, I think we can assume the variants can be milder, but that was not the case with the Delta, because the severity was severe than even original virus. So not necessarily each subvariant will be less severe, but luckily Omicron is less severe, because the virus wants to replicate, virus wants to spread, virus wants to live in the body. So it cannot kill the people, then it won't exist. So virus wants to survive in the body of the patient. So it tends to kind of mutate to the point where they can coexist with the patient. So that is how the viruses can behave. They have their own mind and their own evolution and their own survival, and depends on our own survival to some extent.
Right. I'm just reading a couple of reports that have come in from the UN Health Agency where they say, like you've also been saying, little has been known yet about the differences between the subvariants, and it has called for studies into characteristics including transmissibility, how good, and again it is at dodging immune protections and its virulence as well. Several studies have hinted, however, that BA.2 is more infectious than Omicron. Nothing known about its immune escape or how dangerous it can get. But Maria Van, one of WHO's top experts, actually did say that information about subvariant was very limited, but some initial reports that have come in do indicate a slight increase in the growth rate over BA.2. So far we only know that it just might be more infectious, that is, it will cover more people and spread more quickly than Omicron. But key again, Dr. Lokesh, it will really come down to the fact on whether or not it is showing any immune escape on vaccines, and second, really how dangerous is it getting in terms of, and that's actually related, if it escapes vaccine immunity, then it actually gets down to being more fatal.
Omicron itself, it evaded the immunity because, as I said before, he had infection, people got Omicron, vaccine, people got Omicron, but it seems to be very milder compared to the Delta. So I looked at the data even today. South Africa data comes, the new cases are 3,000. It went up to 32,000 down to 3,000, and they just removed the isolation for even asymptomatic today. So that's where I am still at it. We need to look at the real data before we jump on to this one. But you're right. So all this, another point I'll make. Even though Spanish flu is 100 years old, we are dealing with flu every year, even now. In the USA, you go to CDC website, look at it, we're losing 15 to 20,000 people every year in USA. We as the physicians, we get flu vaccination every year for the last 20, 30 years. Otherwise, we don't get privileges in the hospital. So we are going to do another 100 years with this virus, maybe milder form. So that's the real fact. Some subvariants comes, but we focus is more detail now than because this is a pandemic.
I see. Closing comments from you, Dr. Ravi?
Yeah, it is. The thing is, like Dr. Idara said, it's going to be there. We have to live with it. It's not a new normal, it's a next normal. The normal is going to keep on mutating our normalcy as well. So, but there's another issue that we need to deal with, the long haul syndrome, how all the people who are mildly affected may have some long-term consequences as well. So it's going to have a burden on our system, but we cannot be pessimistic about it. I think we have some options. We have some protections. It's not escaping the immunity, but actually the immune effects of the vaccine are receding after time. So then people are getting sick from the virus exposure, and each person reacts differently to the vaccine. So vaccines are effective to some extent even to the variant, but the vaccine reaction and vaccine effects are variable in people, and also with the time, the effectiveness of the vaccine also reduces. So vaccine and updating vaccination will probably become the norm, the new norm or next norm.
So more and more variants, I think the sense I'm getting, and Dr. Lokesh, correct me if I'm wrong, is not just about lives being lost, but it's about economies being hurt here as well. Yeah. You will need to develop more and more vaccines. There will be more and more sort of spending happening there. More governments will have to come out and ensure that people are protected. So these new variants do pose a threat in a way.
Yes, the variants they will going to see. As I said, for the last 100 years, we're seeing the different thing. They keep changing every year, get the flu vaccination. So the COVID will be added to the flu. We're going to get a vaccine once a year. But the USA is the only one who got the flu vaccines for the last 20 years. But now rest of the world will be more focusing on it and be getting these vaccinations to keep our economy growing. And we have to we have to move on. We cannot keep our hands tied with the virus. We keep on moving and be careful. That's all.
Yeah, we got to live with the virus, but be careful about it. Don't invite it upon yourself. We still don't know what it is going to do to us, to our bodies in the coming years. Thank you both for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having us.